Namaskar to the distinguished dignitaries on the stage and the distinguished gathering in front of me, including professors, students, all who are involved in this meeting. अब हिंदी में बोलना चाहता था मगर there are two problems. One is I am not familiar with artificial intelligence so much. So Hindi mein I might get stuck here and there. Or so let's do it in English if you don't mind. ऐसा तो strong objection तो नहीं है. आंग्ल भाषा में ही करें. तो first let me start with a prayer which is very ancient, which is chanted before anything happens, at least in this country. There's a reason why I want to chant it. We will go into that later. यह है Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, Sarve santu niramaya, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkhapat bhavet. May I also add loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Now, this is the point which I am going to discuss because as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, I'm not that intelligent enough to look into this. But I know there are many great people who are involved in artificial intelligence research in front of me. I met a very interesting person who is kind of working on artificial intelligence in connection with the philosophy darshana called Nyaya, sitting in front of me. So there is a lot of scope to use artificial intelligence. But let me explain this mantra. To put in a nutshell, it simply means Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, may the whole world be happy. Let no one suffer, let everybody be happy. So whether it is artificial intelligence or engineering or space science, the aim, as I understand, is that all human beings are happy. Why human beings? Also other animals. There are other living beings also. So, however much we advance in whichever field scientifically, the human element of keeping a human being happy and grounded and not being destroyed by negative forces should always remain uppermost in my mind, in your mind, and this is my honest and sincere prayer to all people who are working with AI today. Let not the compassion thing escape from this. Love and compassion is very important. Great advanced computers are there, but you would not have heard of two computers falling in love with each other, even from the ordinary point of view. Now this is something which we cannot express in words actually. Can we? Even young people, I'm talking now of biological things, not non-biological. Even young people who stand in a bus stop looking at each other, biological love, okay? If you ask them, what are you doing? They don't know what they're doing. Kuch hota hai, but nobody knows what is happening. Now that is an element which is of the soul and the heart and the mind, which nothing can replace. However, to express this and to improve it and to bring about, translate it into action into this world, artificial intelligence is certainly going to be a very big thing. Anyway, you cannot escape it now. Yesterday, just for my house, I checked for a carpet. I normally don't use the internet so much. And from yesterday, my phone, whenever I open it and go to Google, it shows only carpets. This is artificial intelligence working. Google also works with artificial intelligence very much, I think almost on a very high level of action. So, while all this is true, my point is spiritual, because I don't know much about these matters. I am saying that whatever you do, however much you advance, use those tools for the good of the world. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Let not that go out of our minds. Now this place where I am standing called Manthan. The organization is Manthan, not this IIT Nagpur, but this whole the meeting is being organized by Manthan. Now, if you know the meaning of the word Manthan, it means churning. In the ancient times, they say in the Puranas that the Devas and the Asuras used Vasuki, the snake, and Meru as the churning rod and churned the ocean of milk. Manthan, the first mention of Manthan. And what happened? When churning happens, the first thing that comes out is not Amrit. Halahala Visha, the great poison came out first. And also after the poison got exhausted, then Amrit came up. And then of course there was the fight between Devas and Asuras. We don't have to go into that. So what I'm saying is when a churning is going on any subject, spiritual or scientific, although I would say that spiritual is also scientific. They're not two different things. There is a possibility that some poison may come out, which is good. Although we don't have Shiva here to swallow the poison, but we have actually. We don't see the Nilkant, but it's there. We should welcome the poison also, which means when any subject is discussed, there will be positive, negative, everything will come up. If you look at it carefully, as Krishna advised Arjuna to look sharply without indulging in emotional mishmash, then what will come in the end is Amrit. And we know the meaning of Amrit. Amrit actually means deathlessness. Amrita. When you add a word in Sanskrit word, it becomes opposite. Amrita, mrityu is death. So I hope this conclave goes into this matter, keeping these things in mind. Now, I've also been asked to speak on consciousness. So here is a problem. Now, before I go into this, I must say, actually, I was reminded of this. 50 years ago, today I was reminded, I forgot. 50 years ago, a great person called J. Krishnamurthi spoke about artificial intelligence. It was just the beginning then. He said artificial intelligence is going to come. In a few years it will get advanced and we should know how to deal with it and how, while we use it and advance it, the compassion part should not go away. Roughly this is what he said, that human beings should be human and not just become machines. Although from our point of view, from the point of view of Sankhya and point of view of Yoga Darshana, we are all kinds of machines. We are human machines, which Sankhya says is divided into, first, the body, stula, which functions through the five senses. You know the five senses, indriyas. We don't have another sense, we have only five senses. And all our conclusions and everything that we think of is based on the inputs that come from these five instruments of perception called the indriyas. Common to everybody, even the sight. I am looking at you. Indriyas, chakshu, is working. If it's not working, I cannot look at you. In the same way, all other instruments of perception. Now, this is something I want to go into a little bit since I have to speak on consciousness. I look at this phone and say, this is based on the Sankhya Pravanchana Sutra, the discussion of Kapila Muni's Sankhya. I'm not using the technical words, I'm just talking in English. So this is a rectangular phone that I have with me. The shape of this phone is rectangular. So I say that. You also say that. We know why. Because the instruments of perception, which is the eye, is the same for all of us. The eye contains in human beings a particular lens of a particular power by birth. And therefore, I have decided that this is rectangular. I'm just going to ask you a Manthan question. What if our eyes were built like the compound eyes of a common housefly, which has many eyes gathered together in a compound eye? Would it still see this as a rectangle? Maybe, maybe not. One looks at an elephant, it's a huge creature. When it sees a small human being going close, it gets worried. Perhaps its eyes, chakshu, magnifies the human being into big form, who knows? We don't know that. So, even what impressions we gather through our senses in this world need not be 100% correct. They could be wrong also. We see the sun rise in the morning, right? Everybody of us. Why? Because the eyes see it. And we see the sunset in the evening. But really, does the sun rise or set? You ask a high school boy. He'll say that the earth is moving, sir. The sun is neither rising. But what do we see every day? The sun is rising and the sun is setting. So how much reliance can we give on our sense organs? We cannot. Now, it is the sense organs that decide the inputs that the mind works on and creates a blueprint, which we call our intelligent blueprint. Right? So, how accurate can this be? It could be wrong sometimes. So, now we are talking about not ordinary intelligence, but artificial intelligence. Now, we all know, the experts will tell you, that artificial intelligence operates on the data that you supply. And who is the person who supplies the data? The human being. So the human element is always there. Now, from the Sankhya point of view, what is pure consciousness? Pure consciousness has nothing to do with any of these things. According to Sankhya, or let's say Vedanta, Upanishads are the root of Vedantic knowledge, 2000 years old. And 2000 years ago, somebody said what we call consciousness, which is what we call the Brahman in Sanskrit, coming from the root bru, which means ever expanding, never ending. That Brahman, that supreme reality, the Upanishads say, even our ordinary mind cannot conceive of. Nor can our intelligence understand it. The most intelligent person begins to understand that there is a limit to your intelligence. And there are things which are beyond our intelligence because we have a limited capacity. I'm thinking that maybe the artificial intelligence could increase this limited capacity and make it better. But even however well we go, intelligence in Sankhya is called buddhi. Mind is called manas. Manas and buddhi are related to each other through the sthula sharira, through the physical body. Then there is also the Shushma Sharira, which is the subtle body, and then there is the mind, manas, then there is the buddhi, and then the Atman. So even buddhi, however much it expands, is not Atman. The Upanishad says, Yan manasana manyute yana hurumanomatam tadeva brahmatvam vidvi nedam yadidam upasate. It's a sweeping statement. That means what even the mind cannot reach. But because of which the mind gets its capacity to function, that alone is the Brahman, nothing that you worship here, including artificial intelligence. So, while artificial intelligence can be a great tool to understand things better, today we were having a discussion while we were sitting there with Justice Shukre. So, I think Sir was asking him, what about artificial intelligence for judiciary? He said, well, it's good, but at the same time, the human element is very important. You can get data easily, you can get through all the files in no time. But there is a human element involved. You were also discussing this. A human element is very much involved in coordinating and correlating the data that artificial intelligence can gather. Now, I'm not totally ignorant of artificial intelligence. The idea is, after some time, the machines will start taking decisions. Good. Machines start taking decisions is good, provided the data that you provide to the machine is okay. So that's where the moral element comes. That unless and until those who, what do you call that? Those who feed the artificial, who program the artificial intelligence, they should have a human element in themselves, like compassion, love. These things cannot be artificially produced, although in the human being, when these things happen, there are some electrical impulses happening. Okay, agreed. And the brain is such an advanced computer. I think what we are trying to do with artificial intelligence is to increase even the speed of what's going on in this computer so that we get advantage out of it. But I can assure you, it can show you, after some years you will probably appreciate what I'm saying, that the artificial intelligence at one level will show you that if you are exploring consciousness, we cannot do it through artificial intelligence. The artificial AI itself is going to show us this, that if you're looking for pure consciousness, that cannot be found through any intelligence or artificial intelligence. Even ordinary intelligence cannot find it. We can conclude that it is not this, it is not this. What Shankara said in his philosophy, neti, neti, not this, not this, not this. That process can be speeded up through understanding, with intelligence. Natural, human or artificial. But what it is, the moment I enter into the picture, it is not. So the other third thing I want to point out is the artificial intelligence. If it can, it will be wonderful. Can it take care of controlling our egos? I think the major problem is not information, but the ego. Information is good. Ego is the problem. So maybe we can also measure through artificial intelligence levels of the ego, where it is going, and show it in a graph, readable and understandable form. But to handle it, I have to do it. Nobody can do it. I have to do it myself. So when the ordinary little ego dissolves, the consciousness is revealed as the all-pervading reality. To this, all information. Now what I am saying, if you would feed it into a AI machine, it probably will bring out solutions which even I cannot think of. All I am trying to say, therefore, is the person who deals with the inputs has to have his aim, one, that he looks for the truth and not fudges it with his own opinions. Two, that it is done without indulging in emotions which are useful to me and not useful to somebody else. And that the ego doesn't take over. If these three safety precautions can be put in, I think artificial intelligence will go a long way to improve knowledge of the world and to some extent also improve the knowledge of ourselves so that we can move forward. I know everywhere it's written, Satyameva Jayate. Implementation is the problem. We need to implement it. So, this is my take on artificial intelligence. As far as consciousness is concerned, the awareness of consciousness according to Sankhya, according to Yoga Darshana, according to Vedanta, even according to Nyaya, the understanding of consciousness happens when the mind completely settles down. Which is why Patanjali, in his Yoga Sutras, defined yoga as yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Now, if artificial intelligence can find a way to free the mind from the disturbances and distractions, I would welcome it. with both hands. But if it does not, then exploration into the mind and beyond is not going to work. It could. I'm not saying it cannot. It could. But we should look into it carefully and see if this can happen, because industries can go up, economy can be built, general level of comfort can be increased, laws, rules and regulations and laws, just like Dr. Singhal said, can be looked into. But is it possible for us to find the essence of our consciousness? This needs to be looked into. I'm not saying yes or no on this. Why do I say I'm not saying yes or no? Because I'm a great believer in the Upanishadic teachings. And the Upanishad says, he who knows, knows not. And he who knows not, knows. So I would rather say I don't know. At least you'll think I know. So, it's a wonderful beginning, and I'm sure Manthan will go ahead with looking into this matter, keeping in mind and safeguarding the fact that the human element and consciousness from which the humanity comes from is also kept in place, while AI helps you to understand and improve your knowledge of the scriptures also. You can store all the scriptures that we have in AI in a small chip, I think. And then you can study it carefully and find out what you get out of it. All that is fine. But I still say that the human element is very important. The Atman is very important. What we are working is from Manas down. Though they are all interconnected and dependent on each other. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.